You are listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything with the urban sports scene on Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia. Wole, Ray, and Mo are your hosts. What's good, fellas?
What's happening, people?
As I said earlier, it's no more football right now. So
That's the depressing part. I had
not
to
not
say
a
that.
whole not a whole lot good going on. I know we got the NBA, but still,
It's no football,
football
man.
football was dope at the end of the season once we got past all the COVID issues.
Yeah, it was dope, man. Now
Mm,
it's like done. We got the off season. We got off season stories now. Like that's what we're about. We're about the off season now.
Let's go,
All about rumors,
Sam Darnold.
innuendos. Who's gonna do this? Who's gonna do that? That's what we have. We got Ray texting me, shooting stuff down. Deshaun Watson, who? Like, you know what I'm saying? This is the off season.
Nah, Deshaun Watson, that's the man. But Sam Darnold, according to some individuals, are better. Is
Oh my
better.
God, good God, I don't even want to hear that. That's a whole different discussion. Fans go every which way. There's fans on Twitter that are so in love with Sam Darnold, and I'm like, can you pull up his stats for me? And then make a great argument about why Sam Darnold is like that guy.
I will say,
Hmm.
I will say that Sam Darnold has had the worst surrounding cast
He's a
in
bad
the
surround. Yeah,
yeah
he's a bad
in,
dad.
in the NFL since the day he was drafted. I don't know a worse supporting cast.
I mean,
You
he had
talk
Ron.
about
He had what's his name? Anderson, who plays in Carolina, who's a 1,000 yard receiver. Who's a 1,000 yard receiver over there too. I mean, not everybody has two number one wide receivers. All I'm saying is like the throw like 50% nowadays in the NFL is not the best. And like I don't care where situation you are, your completion percentage is under 60 in today's NFL. Like it don't matter. I get like not having wide receivers to throw like for 4,000, 5,000 yards. I get that, but to throw under 60%, if you're doing that, that says something in today's NFL.
Hey
That's
Mo, that
absolutely,
Russ
but when you
story
look
ain't
at
fake
it,
news either. Go ahead though.
we say, Mo.
I said Robbie Anderson is nobody's number one. As you can tell, he's a compliment down there in Carolina. He resurrected his season,
Yeah,
or let's say career, down there with DJ Moore,
yeah.
taking coverage. So, I mean, when you rely on him, and he had a shaky past with being consistent in college and
Mm.
early on in his career. I think he boomed one year, and then everybody expected that it never happened again. But you look at the deficiencies at wide receiver, tight end. They brought in Le'Veon, but Le'Veon's running style is
Only
not. It
Pittsburgh.
didn't match. It didn't match because of the line. The line play was just horrible. Like he's like the man has literally said he sees ghosts. Like, so let you know what he's dealing with up there in New York, man. Like it's the Jets are a terrible
Yeah,
franchise.
yeah, definitely not the best situation in the world. I don't think anybody can debate that for real. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Search All Burgundy and Gold, everything. Also, tweet us at Urban Sports Scene and hit us up on our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. It's time for the pregame. Here's what we have on tap. We'll talk about defensive end Chase Young winning the defensive rookie of the year award, and Alex Smith being named comeback player of the year. But first, as mentioned, over the weekend, defensive end Chase Young was named the defensive rookie of the year. Thoughts? We'll start with my man Mo.
Oh, well deserved. When you look at the class, the rookie class, you look at Chase. It's not all about his stats, right? We got to look at his impact. It was already a flourishing defensive front here, and he came in and he came in and was the difference maker, right?
Mm-hmm.
His ability and the attention that he gets, I think, is why we've seen an increase in the play with the rest of the defensive line this year. Most notable, Montez Sweat on the other side put up another solid year. The Alabama Wall in the middle, and your boy Tim Settle, who we can't leave out, coming in and
Good one. I like that.
manufacturing pressure.
Uh-huh.
But Chase was just all over the stat sheet. It was no one significant place where the stats will shock you,
Mm-hmm.
but 7.5 sacks, man, 4 forced fumbles. He had like 3 fumble recoveries.
Hey, one
We
for a
know he had,
touchdown.
yeah, scoop and score, big game. Man, and he constantly making the other team have to find out where he was at on the field,
Mm-hmm.
and put the rest of the defensive line in advantageous situations. And when you look at all the other rookies, I think one thing that benefited him in winning the award was the success of the team. And when his play increased, the wins, that's when the team was winning the most games in combination with Alex Smith playing quarterback at that same time. So you look at the impact on the rest of the team, you look at the impact on making it to the playoffs as the winner of the division, and I think it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, everything you just said. It's not easy to live up to the hype, but he did, and he played his football at the most. He played his best football at the most critical time of the season, which was dope. You mentioned that scoop and score. That was huge in that San Fran game when offense didn't play well.
Mhm.
He led a defense as a rookie, and the other impressive aspect about him was he stayed healthy for most of the season. I know he had some injuries early on, but for the most part, his physical conditioning proved to be a bonus for him. And you saw Joe Burrow pick in front of him out for the season. Now I know he plays quarterback, but still, it sucks when your rookie year is ended, especially when you come in the league with so many expectations. So that's definitely a strength of his was his physique, his conditioning, his hard work.
Yeah, I think what you two said, I think the key thing is that down the stretch, he was making big plays to help get this team to the postseason more than anything. We don't see the stats, like the stats don't show up and whatnot in terms of getting 10 plus sacks or whatnot, but you saw that down the stretch, big time players come to play in big games. And you saw for this team to get this team to the postseason, he had big plays for that to lead this team to the postseason. The San Fran game sticks out because the offense was playing like trash and they needed a big play. And he was there to make big plays. But for Chase Young, for him to take his game to the next level, to be compared to like great defensive ends like for like the Lawrence Taylors of the world, the Reggie Whites, even the Peppers. What does he need to do to improve his game? Start with you, Ray.
Well, he needs to learn from a few mistakes he made this season. One, don't commit costly penalties. It
Mm-hmm.
can it can cost you an actual game, which
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that they necessarily would have won it overtime because the game would have won overtime in Detroit. But still, you don't even want that hypothetical to be mentioned because you don't want to make that mistake in that moment. So learn from that. And I think he did. I feel like that was a turnaround. That was a turning point for him.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you may not want to call out Robert Ory. I mean, dang, my bad, my bad. Tom Brady. Don't you may not want to call people out when they constantly win championships. When they got 6 and now
Bravo.
7 rings, you may not want to call them out. Yeah, you've been hearing the Robert Ory comparisons.
Yeah, I have. I
And Robert Ory,
have.
of course, gave him a shout out. But lastly, is honestly, when it comes to football, he needs to get better in the run game. He cannot get sealed off on run defense. He needs to get better there because at times we talked about Washington struggling against mobile quarterbacks, and they struggled against teams like the Baltimore Ravens who can run the football and who have that dual threat quarterback. So I
Yeah.
think that's where his biggest improvements need to come, in addition to his stance getting low. But he doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, and it
Mhm.
was like that coming into the draft. Hopefully, with the right coaching staff, we love these coaches defensively, especially. He'll continue to get better, and he's coachable.
Mo?
I'm gonna piggyback off of Ray. I mean, I think we're all in consensus when it comes to Chase Young. I mean, I think he plays a little high.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
think
say the
he,
same thing. I think get a little
Right.
I
lower. He needs
think
to get a little
Get
lower.
low. No,
yeah,
that's it.
I think he plays a little high. But when you're 6'5" and you're wiry 265, it it lends for you to be there. But we know he has the bend, right? Because we've
Yeah.
seen him come around the corner. So just tightening up that. I take it back to Pee Wee football. My coach used to always say technique. Technique can't be beat.
Yeah.
So I want to see him tighten up some technique. I want to see him rely less on athleticism and more technique, and then that athleticism will take him over the top, right? I think he could do a little bit better in terms of hand fighting, but it's just little nuances of the game. And we talked about the penalties, but rookie mistakes. Come back, he bounced back, he makes big plays. I like his moxie. I know we shouldn't be calling out Tom Brady, but I like his moxie. I like the way that he felt being that confident after that game, going into that game,
Mhm.
that his team could beat. Because it was a culmination of his stellar play over the course of those weeks.
Yeah.
So I see a bona fide stud. I see a bona fide leader. I see a kid that's going to continue to get better. He's going to add moves. He's going to learn in the offseason. And you got to understand, he didn't have OTAs last year, right?
Mhm.
So no OTAs,
Mhm.
coming into a situation where you're the number 2 pick. He had a little groin injury early on. He bounced back from that. Consistent play towards that. almost the middle, the second half of the season, and just continue playing, continue applying pressure, and he will live up to the billing. I have no qualms about Chase
Yeah,
Young.
yeah. To your point, to both of your points, I think everybody has room to improve. That's one. Every player, every great player has room to improve. But for me, it would be more developing some more go-to moves. Because you just don't want to rely just on his athleticism. Because he's a freak. I mean, it's easy to rely on something that you're just the God-given ability. Not a lot of people can literally go against your power or your speed or whatnot because he has a combination of both. But to develop more moves, more counter moves, that's something I think he can really work on. And like Mo said, like yeah, get a little lower. You know what I mean? Because he is high, and I think it's because he's so tall. I get it, but he has the bend. He does have that. We saw that in Ohio State, and we've seen that in a couple games here in Washington. So I mean, developing more moves, I think that will take his 7.5 sacks to where he wants to be at. Because to me, with his skill set, there are players that he's very comparable to that have created havoc for multiple years in the NFL, and he has the same skill set. Even pretty much has been gifted with even more in terms of his ability. So it's all about working on his nuance, working on the little nuances, and I think once he does that, he'll be where he wants to be at. Because to me, his rookie year reminds me of Sean Taylor's rookie year. Because Sean Taylor, you saw glimpses of it. It wasn't all the way well rounded, but you saw it. You saw the ability. You saw it all there. But you was waiting for that next jump. And the same thing with Chase. It's the next jump. It's the next move. It's like, what are you going to do in year two? Because Sean Taylor in year one, you were like, oh, he got hands. He's fast. But can he put it all together? And in year two, he put it all
Mhm.
together. Same thing. I think that fans should expect for Chase Young to put it all together. So we'll see. We'll see how that work out, though. We definitely will. But let's go to Alex Smith. Alex Smith was named the Comeback Player of the Year. Um, Mo, your thoughts on that?
This the most unanimous decision I've ever encountered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you look at the 17 surgeries. You look at almost having your leg amputated. You look at having to train with military grade people, having to come back from that. Something that we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it within the organization with Joe Theismann way long ago. I know technology wasn't as advanced as it
Yeah.
is now, but to go through what that man went through and to provide himself an opportunity to even be eligible to play when a lot of people would have just given it up, especially at his age, his status in the league, and the tenure he'd already had in the league. It would have been easy to walk away. I think he wanted to prove something to himself, and then he ended up being thrust into the role, and then taking the team by the reins. The stats don't tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
1,500 yards, 6 touchdowns. He had a negative interception, touchdown interception
Mm-hmm.
ratio, but the games that he the games that he played in, he commanded that offense.
Yeah.
He stabilized that offense to allow that defense to take over and do what they do. And he was a big part. Him and Chase play at the same time was a big part of this team making the playoffs, even with the record, even though the division was weak.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm.
somebody had to win it, right?
Somebody had to win
Somebody
it.
had to win
Yeah.
it, and he took care of business, and the team took care of business, and I the day he stepped back on the field for Kyle Allen, the war was won.
Yeah. That's true.
The fact that he had to step out there against Aaron Donald his first game back, ooh,
On his
that's where
back,
the
jumping on
award
his
was
back.
won.
Yeah.
Right. Let him play against a bad defensive team. He had to go up against the Rams his first game back. So right there, that's where I was sold as well. It's not much to add to what Mo has already said. And I believe it's going to catapult him into a career of public speaking and
Yeah.
coaching and mentoring because it's going to be other individuals who experience or suffer serious injuries playing this game and suffer serious injuries in life in general, whether it's a car accident, like you mentioned, the military, whatever it may be. Look at what the times we were living in now. So he's going to be influential for a long time, and we'll never forget about Alex Smith. 49 out of 50 votes, though. That was controversial. Somebody voted for Ben. That might have been you, Mo. The way you was talking about
It wasn't
Pittsburgh that
me.
one week.
Hey, y'all seen Shaggy. Y'all seen Shaggy on them commercials. It wasn't
It
me.
wasn't me.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Yeah, man. Like Alex definitely, like to Mo's point, sometimes it's all about synergy. and what Alex and and the defense and Chase Young, his numbers weren't great, but he had those dudes believing. You know what I mean? Like you could see players got amped. They got amped when Alex was in the game, regardless of the fact of how he played. Because he wasn't the best. His stats were he had games where he was like, meh, and he had games where he was like trying to do too much. But you could just tell that certain players just felt it. You know what I mean? Cam Sims, like you could tell, like Cam Sims like playing with Alex Smith. There's certain Scary Terry was like he liked playing with Alex Smith before he got hurt. Before Scary got hurt. You saw the defensive players like they rock with Alex Smith. Like you could tell like when you see that synergy, that tends to help a team out regardless of the fact. So that worked for Alex Smith in Alex Smith's favor. And so to me, like it shows that one, he's got to be a leader of men for players to want to play with you, and adore you and want to play hard for you. You know what I'm saying? So to Ray's point, yeah, I think in his future, like talking engagements, if he wants to be a coach, man, like I feel like that's a route that he can definitely take. Because after watching how these players responded to him, I think coaching is definitely in his future. But speaking of his future, after what we saw with Alex, should the dude just flat out retire? I'm gonna start with you, Mo.
I think I think it'd be hard pressed to have him retire,
Hmm.
for him to willingly retire right now. He went through all of that to get back, right? And he came back, and the team was successful, no matter what the stats look like.
Hmm.
Um, I gotta believe the same confidence that he had when all the odds and all the chips were stacked against him is
Hmm.
going to tell him that if he came back with a full off season and actually dives into the playbook, gets an OTAs, strengthens that leg because he's going to have some time off, that he could be better and that he can close out in a more of a in a better way, right? Like
Hmm.
he kind of had to sit out of that last playoff game, right?
Gotcha.
And I think in his back of his mind, as a warrior,
Competitor.
a former athlete, competitor, you want to go out on your own terms to the best of that. We
Yeah.
all know that it's not the way for everybody, but if you can be standing at the end, then you can finally, look at yourself in the mirror and say, it's been a career, you know what I mean? And right off into the sunset, into those speaking engagements, into coaching, into broadcasting. People are
Hmm.
gonna Alex Smith is gonna be around for a while, you know what I mean?
Agree.
He's gonna be around for a while. If he chooses to stay in the area, I think his legend is gonna grow even more.
Hmm.
Because of overcoming that. Because of overcoming that, the nation's capital loves a comeback story. We love triumph, right?
Hmm.
That's what this city's built on. So I, I just find it hard in my mind, based off of what it took to get back, for him to just give it away. They're gonna, it's gonna take something else, and I think he wants to just see himself ride off into the sunset his way.
Based on all you just said, the post-career endeavors and how he ended his career, I think he should retire. The day that it was reported that Matthew Stafford was part of Washington's inquiries, he's not going to be the quarterback here. Wole, you kept saying next week we expect Alex to retire, so the money's going to be there. It's
Yeah.
it's time. It's time for him to go. It took 1.5 games for fans to forget about him and jump on the Heineke train.
Heineke.
Listen, you don't have much left. You don't have anything left to prove. To me, he is going out on his own terms, and sky's the limit after this.
Yeah, I think that to me he doesn't have anything to prove. I feel like he should retire. But to Mo has valid points though. To be honest with you, I didn't even think about it. Just like obviously for him to people doubted him and he got it to this point. Like people thought he should retire last season. So if you want to think about that mindset, his mindset, right? His mindset may be like, you know what, dude, like give me a whole off season and let me see what I can do. Because we look at we see certain players in the league and because of that they're fiery or they act a certain way, we automatically say they're competitors and they have this drive, right? So Alex is a little more reserved when you see Alex Smith, but from the comeback and what we saw with the documentary, now we understand that like he got that same drive. He just not out in front with it. So he
Mm-hmm.
has it in abundance. So if you having
Clearly.
that thought process, and we all been there in terms of if somebody is pushed us down and said we couldn't do it, we want to overcome and show folks that we can do it. He's already done that with the major knee injury. Now people are trying to brush him out the league because of what they saw, and he couldn't finish the season. He may think to himself, you know what? I don't like the way I ended it off. I should have been in that playoff game. I should have played. And he probably believes if he and thinking of who Alex Smith probably is, he probably feels that if he was in that game, they would have had a good chance to beat the Buccaneers. So his mindset may be wildly differently. Huh?
I'm about to say, I know that for a fact.
Yeah, exactly.
I
So
know
his
that
mind,
for a fact.
yeah, his mindset's wired differently. So he may, I'm saying he may really want to come back. I'm saying that I think he doesn't have anything to prove that he should retire. But I believe to what Mo's saying, I'm kind of like now going with Mo saying is like, you know what? If being Alex Smith, he may not want to go that route.
It's tough, man. It's tough. You won 5 out of those 8 games that you started. You helped put them in position. You played some games where it came down to you, and the other games you were carried, which is which is typical. Even in a normal off season, under a new coaching regime, things like that happen. But to come back from the injury like that, and to be doubted, to be questioned, and to overcome that, and to come and actually play some decent football to the tune of winning. Right? We're going to say decent football to the tune of winning. I think that's more than enough of an itch for him to want to scratch. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think that it definitely is. So he's gonna have a hard decision. I don't know if he's gonna be the quarterback for this team. Like Ray said, all these trade deals, they're inquiring of multiple quarterbacks. Sam Darnold is one of them too, Ray. So uh, I'm not sure if Alex is going to be the quarterback here, but in terms of his thought
Man,
process, definitely, I think he's a guy. I think he's still thinking about playing football. But yeah, we appreciate it. Hey, just about to wrap the show up. Appreciate everybody for listening. Make sure y'all subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Search All Burgundy and Gold Errrything with the Urban Sports Scene. Also tweet us at Urban Sports Scene and hit us up on our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. Mo, Ray, you got anything you want to say to the folks before we jet out?
sorry, Cam Curl. Wally left you out this show. It's on him.
I left you out, but Cam Curl, you deserve a lot of respect, bro. Like you should have. I think you should have gained some respect in the rookie of the defensive rookie of the year voting because he balled out too. But my bad. Thanks, Ray, for catching me on that. Hey, Mo.
Cam Curl is definitely a stud. He's definitely the steal of the entire draft.
Definitely. Hey, thank you everybody for tuning in. You've been
Justin
listening.
Herbert.
You've
Go
been
ahead.
listening to All Burgundy and Gold Errrything with the Urban Sports Scene on Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia for ages. You dig? Deuces, a mega. Lead us out, big homie.
Peace.